So the question I want to ask you is this: what do you think is the basis of the emerging trend of electing libertarian and conservative national leaders instead of socialists? Okay, so Leandro, if you can describe what we'll do going into the breakout rooms, and meanwhile, I'll put that question up on the screen so that people can just get very clear on what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're each gonna have 12 minutes in the breakout rooms, and we're gonna have about 4 or 5 people per room. So yeah, you'll have between 3 and 4 minutes, depending on how many people you have in your room, and we're all gonna be moved in automatically, so no worries there. And we are almost ready.
So here's the question again: what do you think is the basis of the emerging trend of electing libertarian and conservative national leaders instead of socialists? As you all know, I am not political. I don't vote. I see huge corruption in both parties everywhere in the world and in the notion of government itself. But still, it's important to consider this question. What do you think is the basis of the emerging trend of electing libertarian and conservative national leaders instead of socialists? What is it about the libertarians and conservatives that people are now gravitating to? Okay, back to you, Leandro.
Okay, and we're going into the rooms now. Have fun.
Well, hello there.
Hi, David. What part of the world are you in?
Hello there.
Michael, you're muted.
Hello, David. What part of the world are you in?
I'm in Mid-Coast, Maine.
Nice.
I'm in the USA, Mid-Coast, Maine. How about you?
I'm in the Pacific Islands, so kind of bouncing around the Pacific.
Which one?
Between the Big Island, Oahu, Maui, and Kauai.
All right. All right. Very good. Very good.
It looks like we've got David Fowler as well. David, you want to say boo?
And you're muted also, David Fowler.
And Rhett Boyd.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Did anybody?
I'm Atlanta, Georgia.
It's nice to meet you.
Thank you.
And David, if you want to come up, you're welcome to join the discussion. Maybe you guys could provide your perspectives on the question.
Well, I would like to, the thing that came up for me in the moment was that it's when it affects us personally, we can change our perspective and expand out to take in more. And I think that the trend is the moment you expand out, there's a lot of people who can provide education as to what's happening. And until people are ready to hear, they're not going to have it. And what's going to, the trend will be the fear that's being injected into humans all over the planet is reaching a tipping point where people can no longer sleepwalk into CBDCs and slavery. I think, and at that moment, they're not going to give it up. So it will be a quite a tumultuous time. And so anyway, I might come back later, but I would love to hear from others.
Any other
I couldn't
perspectives?
myself unmuted earlier. This is David.
David,
Fowler.
welcome. Nice to make your acquaintance. We don't see your video stream, but that's okay if you don't want to, so no worries.
I'm on
It's okay.
I'm in Florida, and very close friend of Foster & Kimberly's, part of the what they call the Quantum Financial System Development Group.
Mhm.
And I personally, I think the answer to the question is more of a spiritual. I believe that there is an ascension process going on. And I think that what's happening is, as our vibration is being raised, more and more people are sort of waking up and going, you know, WTF, what is this all about? Why are we letting these people do this to us? And I think what's happening is, as
Go ahead.
the other Dave started to say something.
Go ahead. You're okay. Go ahead.
Okay. Anyway, I just, you know, my wife and I are two of those that have been awake for a very long time. My wife used to be part of the 9/11 Truth movement. She was the coordinator for our county for architects, engineers for 9/11 Truth many years ago. Well, I lost you guys. What happened?
We're still here. I think somebody else just beeped on the other.
Okay.
Any
rate,
Mrs. Boyd.
We've just, you know, we haven't been vaccinated. We were not locked down people during the pandemic. You know, we have a divided family. Half of our family's been vaccinated and believes we're nuts, and the other half doesn't really care. Just sort of, you know, like, just leave me alone. Let me play my video games and you know, watch America Has Talent, and I'll be okay. But I think what's happening is more and more people are, their vibration is rising to the point where they can't tolerate just, you know, doing their own thing. And they're seeing the injustices that are being perpetrated on them. And I think that's by spiritual design. I think we're supposed to do that. And so I think we're going to see a lot more, and I think we're going to see a lot more turmoil in the next few months, maybe the next year or two.
Okay, that's a great perspective. Thank you for sharing it. I would concur with every word that you said. And it's interesting, David versus Dave, to see your perspectives, because they're all really in the same path. They're just a little different approach to it, if you will, right? Rhett, would you, is it Rita? Rita Boyd?
Retta?
Retta?
It's like Rhett.
Rhett? It's a pleasure to meet you. And would you share your perspective with just perfect strangers for the first time? This is a really good way to kind of understand, you know, just the general populace of what's going on. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's such a blessing, this whole family, Thrive family.
Mm-hmm.
Well, conservatives versus socialists. Conservatives, I believe, are winning. Globally, people are crying for freedom. I think we have to get away from socialist and, you know, all this rhetoric about divide and conquer. So I think from where I'm at, I'm seeing that the conservatives, I'm Christian, but spiritual conservatism is definitely being heard globally. So I think it's very important that we all join together. There's a lot about MAGA, M-A-G-A, the Trump movement. I think it's really beyond Trump. This is about everybody. And it appears to me that humanity is under attack. And we all need to wake up and figure out what are we going to do to get away from all the nonsensical conversations. So I think at this point, my hope is that everybody really thinks in terms of how are we going to survive? How will humanity survive? And forget about, we're Republicans, we're Democrats, we're liberals, we're independents. RFK is working hard to do third party. And I think the threat there is that Twice we've had the third party division, Taft and Roosevelt, and we got the Federal Reserve. And then we had the division of Bush and Perot, and we got Clinton. So I hope we can all come together and have a united front, because we are in real trouble with where things stand at this point. The invasion, the non-kinetic war right now, but that is, we're definitely threatened within this country.
Thank you for sharing your perspective.
You're welcome.
Spiritual conservatism. I think you hit it right on the head.
Yeah.
And
it's a huge challenge. Huge challenge.
you know, my perspective on all of this is, it is a wonderful time to be alive.
Me and you.
It's a wonderful time,
Woo.
you know? It's exciting. We get to see in the dispensation when we're alive. Think about it.
I know.
We haven't seen real war yet.
Oh,
We've been able to live through, the luxury of not having to, we get to take warm showers. We don't live on the dusty old roads of going from the East Coast to the West Coast when the US was settled. We don't live in the dark ages when we just lived around fires. And it's just a wonderful time to be alive, even with the rumors of wars and the wars. But I think you hit it right on, David, all of you, that it is a spiritual war, but we're actually here on earth to learn and to struggle. We're here on earth to gain our own understanding of black and white, good versus evil. And we're here to make choices, consistent choices of how we will serve one another and love one another and grow and become better, or make wrong choices and learn from those wrong choices. But I commend you all and for the opportunity to work with you. David, you talk about the quantum financial system. And over the last 13, almost 14 years, actually over 15, almost 15 now, we've built that system. And not only the quantum financial system, but a decentralized identity system, so that people that actually use the quantum system will be able to have an identity that is private. Because we all know that everything's going digital. It wasn't about a virus. It wasn't about COVID. It was about a financial reset and digital control, period.
Yes, it was.
And when I said that in January of 2019 on a Facebook post, people attacked me, said, how could you just say this? People need to go and in their homes and get the vaccines. Wasn't a big deal there. By the way, we're not vaccinated. I've got a beautiful family, and none of our children, 6 of them, are vaccinated in any form. And they're some of the most brilliant, smart kids you'd ever see. But this identity management system and this financial system exists today. Digitalworld.earth, you can see it. It's real, it's live, and it will provide choice for humanity. Hello, everybody. Such a beautiful man.
Okay, welcome back. So raise your hand if you want to say something about what you think the basis is of this trend. What's really going on? Danielle, hi there. You need to unmute.
Okay,
There
yeah.
we go.
Hi, how are you?
Great, good to see you.
Great to be here. So we were just 2 in our room, so we got a chance to really speak up. And for me, to be honest, it's really, I think the basis for the new trend is I think people are just, well, I'll speak for myself. I'm just tired of being lied to, manipulated, controlled. I'm just tired of it. I just, everywhere I turn, I'm being lied to, manipulated, and controlled. It's really that simple.
Yes.
So my vote is going to go, I don't even want to vote because I don't believe in I don't believe in politics either. But if I have to, I'm definitely going to vote for libertarian and not anything else. I just don't believe that anybody has the right to tell us what to do, what to buy, how to smell, what to eat. I just don't believe in that. Nobody has dominion over another human being, ever. That's my personal feeling.
We were just talking about that in our breakout group, that the difference seems to be that the collectivists, particularly on the left, rally around the word fairness. But who gets to decide what's fair? Whereas the people more on the libertarian, on the conservative side, they seem to rally more around freedom. And I think that that's just a huge step in the right direction. Even if you're political, you have some beacon in mind. And with I think it's coming out more and more because so many people are sick of it, that the key distinction is that freedom is the basis of fairness. It's not majority rule. It's not some Marxist system. That's not how you get to fairness. You get to fairness through allowing everyone to be free.
It's a universal law. It's just, it's natural law for us.
That's right.
It's just.
Well said. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Ong Le, I was hoping that you would come on. I saw a message from you in the forum about about this book and what you're doing. First of all, I'd love to hear your answer to this question about what do you think that this emerging trend is, and then I want you to tell us about your work.
Yes, thank you. First, Drew Freeman, I met you in Nassim Haramein courses. And I also follow all of the work and your call that everyone in every corner should contribute to this process. So I would come with the book and share what we have done in this corner in Australia, but I work in the community of Vietnam.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we don't have two-party election. We have one-party election. So you can imagine the word freedom is not for us. We don't have it in the vocabulary. Human rights is not in the vocabulary. But I always believe what Foster has said. It's principles and not politics is our way out. So which principle we are carrying in our heart, in our work, in our community. So that's why we think that prosperity only comes after peace. Peace only comes after unity. And we only can achieve unity if we understand that unity is in diversity. And I think people vote for democratic is because you want diversity. You want to have voices. You want to have all different views, not imposed views, not lies, right? And socialists or communists have failed people hope. I think that's why people tend to go to the least harmful, but not for the best, because we don't see exactly where the best is. And for my work, I've been doing community media work, and it's grassroots community. We don't care about any institution at all. We just do what we can do for our kids, and we build the values, we build the community trust, and we have achieved something out of the changes of work. So I shared in my books with achievement that we can transform people, family, kids, and we even design our own education. It's like invisible. Nobody sees us, but it actually happening. So this is a community area that I trust. And based on We Are One, I believe in the science of Nassim Haramein of unified science. At the basic, we train our kids that basic so that they embrace that we are one at heart, and they are working for the world. So that's what I want to share. And with our small group, with Stephanie and Raymond, we have interesting because said, oh, this is someone come from outside of United States, from the other end of the world to see what we here in the other end of the world seeing. So you may laugh that, at this corner, we give hope to people who still has the freedom, at least, that kind of freedom. You can say your views, you can say the word freedom, you can put things online, and you can have visible movement, even though it's not exactly what it's been, but at least you have more things in your hands than what we have in our hands.
Yeah. Well, I ordered your book. I haven't received it yet, but I printed out what's available on Amazon, which is a couple of sample chapters and a table of contents. And I was really impressed by the topics that you are taking on in that book. So I highly recommend that people check out. It's behind her, their Unity in Diversity. It's an impressive work. I really congratulate you on all the critical thinking that you have been doing. And then to actually put it in a book like that is super impressive. So thank you and congratulations.
Thank you. I do hope that we give a small piece of the puzzle, because I see one of your framework of solutions. Yeah. And we don't work in institution and governments and energy, things like that, but we do see that there is something we really can do every day from the community with the kids. And the kids in our community, even though they don't know English, we start to teach them English and unified science.
Wow, that's so great. I also want to say, while you're on, Hong, that it's very poignant for me to be talking to you as a person from Vietnam and talking with you on this philosophical level. Because when I was graduating from college, it was during the invasion of Cambodia. And we had a draft lottery and I had a very low number. So I was going to be sent off to try to kill people in Vietnam and Cambodia. And I just could not imagine myself going to try to kill people that I didn't know, that I had never met. I didn't understand what was going in their lives. I didn't understand any good purpose for the war. And so I investigated the conscientious objector, but I was not a member of any religion, and they wouldn't accept my ethics unless it was affiliated with a religion. So I went to, I was at Princeton University at the time. So I went to the psychiatrist there and I said, I have this problem. They want to send me to fight in Vietnam. And there's just no way that I could do that with my body and soul. And he said, well, I'm of a similar state of mind. So let's talk and maybe I can help you out. So we talked through everything that I was thinking. And then he wrote me a letter, which I took to the draft board, that says, this young man has a serious aversion to authority and killing, and therefore would be a liability to the armed forces. And they released me from an obligation to go. But I remember when I was given that good news, I also said, just in myself, my own connection with the divine, I said, thank you for this. And I will commit my entire life to fighting the battle for peace and for freedom, but not through being a soldier, but actually finding out what's going on and finding out how we can actually achieve peace rather than wars. So that's a lot of what led to the Thrive movie. So it's very, I've got a number of great friends from Vietnam, and my son was a high-level tennis player, and there are a lot of good tennis players who grew up with him from Vietnam. So it's a great sense of peace for me that I can have friends like you rather than to have got caught in some fake sense of enemy. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. You are the inspiration. And Drew, we have many members getting the scholarship in the current program, the Joy program for kids.
Great. Well, as I've mentioned many times in the Fireside Live, I'm a huge fan of what Drew is doing with the Coherence Education for Kids, and I've gotten to participate as a faculty member in a few of the courses, and will be again coming up in May. All right, thank you, Hung. Matthew.
Hi, Foster.
Hello, Matthew.
I put that slide. I'm going to move out of the way so people can read it, because this is really important. So let me just move out of the way and people can read this. I don't know where you can see it.
Some people are just watching, so maybe you should read it out loud too.
Okay, so we'll talk about artificial intelligence in a moment, but basically at the core of any intelligence is this non-aggression principle that Foster talks about. And this is the fundamentals to universal morality that aligns with intelligent design and the true freedom of who we are as a divine spark within creation. So let me just read out the non-aggression principle and then the Declaration of Ethics for Artificial Intelligence. And I just want to let people know that Foster was the first in the world to come up with a Declaration of Ethics for AI. And then by chance, potentially, the US government released something and the World Economic Forum released something very quickly afterwards that was against, effectively, an opposite to this truth that Foster came up with. So the non-aggression principle is ethical behavior by humankind is based upon the non-initiation of force or fraud towards others and their property. It is essential that no robot be created without this principle being programmed as a central guide to its function, regardless of place, time, culture, community, gender, race, age, or condition. And so the Declaration of Ethics for AI, which you can read about on Foster's website, Free to Thrive, and I'm going to be writing about this on inventingworld3.com and in my next book, a deep dive into this. The non-aggression principle, the core of all human ethics, recognizes that no individual has the right to initiate force, coercion, or fraud against another, except in true self-defense. So AI must be subject to the same codes of ethics or universal morality as humankind itself. So this is a double-edged sword. It is a sword for humanity to understand who are we as a species and how can we thrive and build new abundant systems of the future? And also, how do we encode these within artificial intelligence in order for it to be a partner in innovation and not to be an overlord, which is what the World Economic Forum are doing with their responsible AI movement.
Matthew, I'm so glad that you're on here today, because it's perfect when I'm talking about milestone media events, because I know that you were at the Conscious Life Expo last weekend, and I've been hearing glowing reports. I think you rocked their world. And so could you give us a little bit of a sense of what your message was and how you were received?
Yeah, so first of all is that no one in AI leadership speaks to the general public. And so I spend a lot of time speaking to the general public, listening to their points of view, and then we uncover this new path of thriving, Foster, for humanity. And people then get comfortable and excited about AI. So at Conscious Life Expo, I did a full disclosure of the next book, which is basically uncover, first of all, what is AI, and giving people a real tangible feel for what it is and where we can go. And then we start to dive into the coercion of these globalists that are trying to force artificial intelligence with their woke agenda of this climate, the attack against the female, diversity, equity, inclusion, the attack against the beauty of the female and the male union. Basically, I do a full disclosure around this kind of what I call this descent into hell. And then that's the really interesting stuff, where I uncover the new enlightened era for humanity of how AI will fit into that, with these enlightened principles like universal morality or the language of nature from John P. Milton, etc., etc. So really, it's a full disclosure of these two paths, Foster, for the human species. One is a descent into hell, which is this mechanical kind of a violation of the divine organic design, where we merge with machines, and they've forgotten that we are universal intelligence. And the other one, which is this era of enlightenment, what I call Homo lucidus, where we become even more thriving in our organic divine spark, and we're starting to uncover new fields of who we are in the cosmos, and AI is a partner in that development.
And so how did people respond to that message?
They loved it. They've never heard this before.
Yeah.
And so what I'm going to do is to start to run monthly webinars for folks that subscribe to inventingworld3.com and others to come along, and we start to build this global movement as we start to basically become advocates of the future. But more importantly, Foster, as you're aware, I developed blueprints and solutions that we can use to create a new momentum for humanity. And we kind of just ignore all this kind of coercion. And forget that. Let's be exciting and build the future, although we need to pay attention. So that's, the people loved it, Foster. They love the fact there's a new era of enlightenment for humanity, and AI can become a partner.
It's so exciting to me that you're out there with this message. Many of you probably recognize Matthew from one or might have been two appearances in the Freedom Portal in past years. But he's one of the living experts on AI, but he's one of the few of the leaders in AI who is also a spiritual teacher. He's fundamentally a mystic. And so he is absolutely committed to using the best of AI while honoring and preserving the organic, the spiritual, our divine connection. And he recognizes that AI, for all of its incredible capacities, is not alive. It doesn't access the Akashic records. It accesses a lot of digital memory, and that's great, but it's not the same as the life force itself. So I really think that he's one of the peaceful warriors establishing the fork in the road to keep us from going into the oblivion of being obligated to turn over human life on planet Earth to robots and actually go forward with what Matthew and I call, instead of the digital singularity, it's the human singularity, the human fulfillment singularity, where while we're developing all this incredible technology, we also stay on the path of fulfilling the potential of human beings for love, for connection and empathy and intimacy and honesty, and then connecting that out into all the rest of life in the universe. So thanks for all you're doing, Matthew.
Thank you, Foster. Thank you.
Okay, Michael, good to see you again.
It is wonderful to be here. And thank you for all that you do to drive such awareness to such a massively important topic. Like you, when you dedicated your life and your time to really serving humanity instead of going to war and fighting.
Yeah.
I too did a similar thing. And when we broke out to review your question, which was a brilliant question, the overall, and these are people that are just from different perspectives, but the overall consistent tone was, we identify that this is a spiritual war. And for me, the direct answer was, what an exciting time to be on Earth. What an exciting time to be alive. Could we imagine a better time and dispensation? In all reality, it's actually been a wonderful life. We haven't had to go through crazy stuff. Like, remember Vietnam, or remember these different crazy wars, World War II. We just barely missed it in a real way. And we haven't seen war like that. And it's just an amazing time to be alive and to be able to identify good versus evil, right versus wrong, light versus dark, and to be able to pull all of this together like you have, and many others, like the gal from Vietnam with her book, Unify, and the gentleman. By the way, I would love to connect with the gentleman that was just talking. But I want you to know that people like you that have focused their energy and effort in writing and understanding things of this earth, people, humans, science, nature, the reason why we're here. You know, if we can come together, just like the gal talked about, if we can unify and we can actually do something that is very simple, we all have a choice to actually purchase something that is local to us. We all have a choice with what currency we use to purchase those things. And by making those two choices, to buy local and to use a currency that you can actually understand has transparency, honesty, virtue within it, righteousness, and it's actually built for future generations, not just for our greed today. And so what I show you here is what we call the Hawaiian Kingdom. And many may not have heard of this Hawaiian Kingdom, but it's actually been around for a very long time. It was taken over about 131 years ago by the Americans, and they took away the Hawaiians' life, their hearts, but their spirits have been strong, and they will continue to be strong. But this Hawaiian Kingdom represents one of 4 countries, of which I've been to 19 countries this year, and 4 countries are rolling this technology out. You know, there was a gentleman, David Fowler, in my breakout room that talked about being on the Quantum Financial System group that you've been building. And I told him, I said, David, it's already created. And this Hawaiian Kingdom is the first country to actually roll it out. Actually, it's the second. The first country is Tuvalu, which is the least traveled country in the world, and the first country that will actually lose their land because it will be enveloped by water from the sea levels that are rising. Their hearts are amazing. In Tuvalu, their bloodlines come from, that can be traced back to Tonga and Samoa. And Tonga and Samoa can be traced to Aotearoa or New Zealand or Rarotonga or Hawaiian Islands. But the point that I bring up is all of these decentralized islands that are used to living on their own and even having spiritual connections and understanding why we're here. They would call it Akawa, or some would call it God, some would call it creator. But the point that I'm trying to make is these systems are here and they're live today. You can try this system today. If you have an Apple phone or a Google phone or a Clear phone, you can download it, an app called Hawaiian Life. Like literally, you can go download it, you get 12 words, and then you can actually transact. So one of the things that we're working on is helping people to get out and party once a month, not drink booze, not get loud, but to actually shop, to purchase things that are local to them, that have been grown local to them, like coconuts, or, you know, I actually bought a little butterfly and watched it grow in the cocoon and hatch and fly away, or, you know, but if you purchase local with these new currencies that can have, so for instance, this is an actual clear, you probably can't see it. This clear phone ties over to a simple card that you can actually transact in the normal world. So it's going from the digital ecosystem, or what we call the digital world at digitalworld.earth, into the fiat world. But the goal is to stay out of the fiat systems that are actually a part of the secret combinations that are controlling people. If we choose not to use their monetary system, they can't control us. They can't tax us. They can't own us. They can't literally take away our rights because we give them to them. We give them to them to say, you know what, we're going to register a business in their world, in their jurisdiction, in their dominion, in their currency. And then look at what happened with Trump just this last couple of weeks. They'll take away Trump's ability to have his business because he registered it in their sandbox. They'll take away his bank accounts because he registered them in their sandbox. That Hawaiian Life app, it will allow you to register your business and use your own assets that no human can take away. We talk about artificial intelligence. The artificial intelligence is only as good as people can have their privacy and identity.
Yeah.
And so if we can have true decentralization, then literally our choice can be returned. And in my opinion, that's the answer to your question. Is it libertarianism? Is it socialism? We are here as gifts. Our spirits are in these bodies as gifts to be able to learn right from wrong, light from dark. But it's even a process of not just always choosing one or the other, but to choose. And the ability to have choice can be given to us if we decentralize our lives. And so I would hope that we can spend more time to understand this, to feel it, and to continue the love, Foster, that you have given to so many from your simple choice of saying, I don't want to fight. I don't want to go to war. I don't want to fight somebody's fight that doesn't even understand the people. They don't look in the eyes, like this beautiful woman that's here, Hong. One world, one people. We are here to love one another. We're here to serve one another. We're not here to hurt one another or judge one another. So,
well, it's very beautifully said, Michael. And I love that you're not only aware of on that level, but that you are doing the manifestation that you're doing in the world, that you're traveling around, with these messages, and that you're actually creating the websites and the projects and the currencies and so forth to make this real. So is digitalworld.earth the best place for people to find out more?
Yeah, that's the right place. Yeah.
So Sandra, if you would put that in the chat, that'd be great. Digitalworld.earth. I didn't know there was a .earth. That's so good.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, thank you for coming on, Michael.
Thank you, Foster.
Very inspiring.
Appreciate all that you do, and just appreciate the opportunity to check in with you once a month and see what you do. We do it once a week, and we would love to have more involvement and training and teaching and just helping people to understand there is a choice. There is an alternative. Yeah. So
no, it's what's emerging, and it's unstoppable. This is what the unified field wants.
It really is. I believe it's the system for the new millennium. This isn't just a new technology that's going to say, oh, well, you can chat better, you can transit. No, it's bigger than that. This is a system for thousands of years that humanity can gain its own identity, data, privacy, voice, and ultimately freedom of choice. So
yeah.
Thank you, Foster.
Well, thank you so much.
You too.
Okay, I'm going to take a couple of questions. There's one question in the chat that I also was sent, where Panilla said she'd love to hear me comment on what Robert Reich, I think he was a congressman from California, said about RFK Jr., where he said RFK Jr. may say that he's an independent running for president, but he's nothing more than a right-wing tool being used to help to elect Trump. His candidacy has been backed by a PAC that also funds Marjorie Taylor Greene and George Santos. The Super Bowl ad that ran last night promoting his candidacy came from a PAC that collected $15 million from major Trump donor Timothy Mellon, an heir to the Mellon banking fortune, who's also separately donated $10 million to Make America Great Again, the pro-Trump super PAC. I knew Robert F. Kennedy, and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is no Robert F. Kennedy. Well, that's a classic Robert Reich comment. Robert is a devout socialist who did his best to bring in as many socialist policies as he could to the American government. And he clearly doesn't know Robert Kennedy Jr. And the notion that he's a right-wing tool brought in to elect Trump is just outrageous to me. I don't know about the PAC. I mean, I think Marjorie Taylor Greene is doing great work. I'm sure that Robert Reich doesn't like it. George Santos was obviously, if you're not familiar with him, he was a complete fraud who lied about everything and got into the Congress and then got exposed and got kicked out. So I don't know about any of that connection. And then the PAC that I know the guy who runs the PAC from that funded the ad at the Super Bowl. And he's an amazing guy. And his name is, I think it's blanking on the first name. His last name is Lyons, and he runs Skyhorse Press and publishes books by by Kennedy, by Edward Dowd, by Gavin de Becker, just all sorts of people who are bringing major truth to the world. He's the one, more than anyone that I know, who's publishing those kind of books. So I personally do not agree with this statement about RFK Jr. at all, but it doesn't surprise me at all that it's coming from Robert Reich.
Now, Foster, we also have a question in the Q&A from Francesca, who's wondering about RFK's chances of winning. So if you can chime in on that one too.
Okay, sure. You know, as I just mentioned, I'm not political and I don't vote, but I'm a huge admirer of Bobby. I know him, and my wife Kimberly knows him really well, so we're able to interact with him on all different topics, and I have a tremendous admiration for his courage and his truth-telling. And I've watched his pattern. You know, this is a guy who is very honest about his own life. You know, he was a kind of a loser as a kid and a drug addict, and you know, went through an alcoholic and went through recovery and really got his life back together. His major, I think, connection with the divine is through nature. Ever since he was a little kid, he just absolutely loves nature, and that's why he's used his prodigious legal skills to clean up the Hudson River, which nobody ever thought could be done, you know, near Manhattan. And then, you know, he's fought Monsanto and Big Pharma and just on and on. And he basically never loses because he doesn't go into court unless he knows he's got it. And I would love to see a person of that character and those skills be president of the United States. And I've watched his learning process. You know, he had a ridiculous video years ago where he was ranting on about how climate change deniers should be put in jail. Well, he woke up about climate change and admitted his mistakes and recognizes that the real issues of pollution, which he's a real expert on, are being used by the UN and Agenda 2030 and so forth to try to create a global communist state, and that the actual and honest free market is the way to solve those problems and holding polluters accountable, but not through this hoax about humans being the source of the warming of the planet. So I got to see him change on that. He used to be very pro-vaccine until some women came and basically camped on his front porch with a stack of documents saying, "We're not leaving until you read these." So finally he read through the documents and he said, you know, I had no idea what was really going on with vaccines. And now he's one of the leading voices in the world for either no vaccines or safe and effective vaccines, of which there are none yet. He's pro-vax as long as it's safe and effective. It's just that they aren't. So they're being used as a cover for a depopulation agenda, and he's very aware of that. He did a major diatribe on Joe Rogan, which is one of those other milestone events where Joe just said, listen, take as long as you want. Tell us the truth about vaccines, and he did. If anyone hasn't seen that, go see it. If you have any doubt who the guy is, because you know, it's not like this has made him popular with Democrats or popular with a lot of members of his own family. But and I disagree with him on what's going on with Israel and Palestine. And Kimberly has had extensive conversations on that topic. He's very well versed on the history of Israel and Palestine. And I've listened to a ton of what he says, but he's very well versed on the traditional Zionist propaganda. I don't think that he is aware of the Rothschilds' role in creating Israel. He's not aware that Israel was created to be the center for the global financial takeover of the planet through the Rothschild central banking system. I don't think he fully acknowledges the cruelty and the murders that took place in displacing over 800,000 residents of that area to create the Zionist state and so forth. and he's been unwilling to sit down with someone who is a dear friend of his and a major advisor on health issues, but someone who's one of the living experts to me on the Israeli-Palestine situation, a man named Jeremy Hammond. And Jeremy had written a book called Obstacle to Peace. And Bobby's been unwilling to just sit down and even talk with Jeremy, much less read the book, because the obstacle to peace, and Jeremy's one of the few people who knows the facts as well as, I think, even better than Bobby. And he just lays out that the obstacle to peace in the Middle East is the US government, the deep state, and their allegiance with the Rothschild banking system. So I would love to see Bobby as a major leader in the government. I don't know if the government's the best place for him. In terms of his chances of winning, it all has to do with the political system. Right now, in terms of independent polling, he's significantly ahead of Biden or Trump. But of course, nobody in the deep state wants him in there any more than they want Trump in there. So they're trying everything they can to get him off the ballots as well. And he because he declared as an independent, he now needs to go and get on every single state ballot. And they're trying to change ballots to raise the numbers and change the dates and so forth, because they know that no independent since George Washington has ever had such a good chance of winning the presidency. So it's possible if they can get around the legal shenanigans, because he's that popular, especially with the people under 45. So to have a truth teller like him or a Vivek Ramaswamy and so forth, to have them anywhere in this system is going to really make a major change. So I think I'll leave that one at that. Let me look at other. Well, let me take a moment to make sure we get this in, because I really look forward to these sessions. It's really a highlight of my month each time. And I always look to see how can I maximize the enjoyment and the benefit that each of you and I get out of this time. So I'm big on feedback. So I asked Leandrew if he would create a poll to just test the waters and see what elements of Fireside Live you find most valuable. And the key elements of Fireside Live are the update and commentary that I do usually for some period of time, the breakout sessions we have, the general discussions we have, the Q&As where I take questions or I ask you questions, so forth. And then the last one is just the general sense of community, which is certainly very important to me, and I know to a lot of other people. So, Leandrew, they've got a new polling device, so we're just
learning
this
is some new tech
one.
that we're working with here. This is a cutting edge Zoom feature. So
I'm turning it over to you,
sure.
Leandrew, to show people how to take this poll.
Yeah, not entirely sure how it's going to look on your side. I believe it should be pretty straightforward. Sandra and I just ran through it before the show. So yeah, we're just looking for you to rank those as to which is most important to you and which is least important and everything in between. So we can get a sense of where everybody's at. And it seems to be working just well for everybody. So we'll give you guys like another minute or so to answer those questions.
So rank what you most value in Fireside Live. My updates and commentaries, the general discussion, the Q&A, breakouts, or just the sense of being with community. I always love the polls that we did in the Freedom Portal, and but the Freedom Portal was in the webinar format, whereas these community gatherings are in the meeting format, and which didn't used to have polls, and now they do. So I'm excited because I'm as a scientist, I've been really interested in feedback my whole life, and I had a company in Silicon Valley where we did brainwave biofeedback training. So I know that every living organism survives and thrives on the feedback that it gets. So I want to do the same for Fireside Live and find out what's working for you. So how's it going, Leandro? Do you think we have what we're looking for?
We're at about 60%, so maybe we
Okay.
should give everybody about another minute or so.
All right, great. So, I follow a lot of other people and I listen to their podcasts and I attend some of their community meetings and so forth. So it's always interesting for me to see what I especially enjoy. And I know that I enjoy listening to someone with expertise comment on things that matter. And so I do that each time, because I think that if I were part of the group, I would want to hear me do that, but I don't want to take too long to do it. And also, I so appreciate the discussion. That it's a lot easier to access podcasts, to access expertise ranting on about what they know about, than it is to have really intelligent discussions that are spontaneous amongst knowledgeable and uncensored communities. You probably noticed at least to date, I have not been doing any interviews. And the reason for that is that, first of all, it takes a lot of time. The enrollment of guests takes a lot of time, and that either is my time or I need the staff to do it. And if somebody comes on, they usually expect me to then come on theirs, then that's more time. And I just don't have that time right now. In my prioritization of my blogs, my videos, and these meetings, in addition to my book, I just don't have the time. And I did that for a total of 4 years. And there's always more interesting people, but I covered every sector and I covered every major topic and had on almost every one of the main people that I wanted to talk with. So I'm not interested in clicks. I'm not just trying to make money off this or something like that. So it just didn't feel like a high enough priority for me to do that. So that's why the elements of this gathering are what they are.
And so I understand a few people are apparently still having issues submitting. And if you are, please just let me know for science sake, and the chat, like what type of device you're using and all that, so we can look into that after the fact. But we'll go ahead and end the poll and share the results. All right, and so basically it looks like Foster's updates and commentary by far the most important. Community comes in at second place.
Well, hold on just a second, Leandro, because I'm not seeing. I think I'm seeing the poll, but I'm not seeing the results. How do I get
seeing the results?
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm sharing the results right now. So it maybe on your end, if you go to more and go to the polls and quizzes, is everybody else seeing the results? If you can just let us know in chat.
I see the results.
Okay. So Foster, that might be
You have to look at the color-coded line there. That's how he's reading.
Yes. So if you hover over that line, Foster, are you seeing those lines?
Yeah.
Okay. If you hover over the lines.
Okay. So I need to hover over the line, then I see that. All right. Got it.
Yeah. So overall, it looks like the updates and commentary are the most important. With community as a second place. I would say probably discussions are third place, and then Q&A, and then breakout rooms. But as Luthi suggested, it's all so important. So I know it's probably a challenge to do.
Yeah, they really work together, obviously. So I don't I don't take this in any negative way at all. It's just good for me to get a sense of the weighting, so I can apportion the time as appropriately as possible. Okay, well, thanks for doing that. That's very helpful. And hang on to that data, Leandro.
Yeah.
And I think what I'd like to do is do one more breakout group, because I wanted to do a second question, kind of follows on the first one. And I'll share my screen and you can see the next question. And the lead into this question really is that with all of the areas where they have so much influence and control, where the would-be controllers, with money and education and food and medicine and on, it can seem, particularly for people who are just pretty new to the rabbit hole. I talk to a lot of these people and they're like just overwhelmed. It's like, oh my God, everywhere I look, there's bad news. It's the same people in control. They've got so much money. They seem to own every institution. We don't seem to have a chance. Well, those of us who have been down the rabbit hole for a long time, I find are the most hopeful of all. And that's because we actually see the trends and we see how people are waking up, taking a stand, and actually turning things around. And I talked a little bit ago about, obviously, media was the big one that I think is now unstoppable. But I did that blog on the Dominoes of Destiny where I talked about how, the climate change hoax is getting exposed and the COVID hoax is getting exposed and the pedophilia, political control is getting exposed and child trafficking. And this is leading toward an exposure of the truth behind the banking scams and ultimately leading toward the exposing the myth of authority itself. So I'm actually more optimistic than I've ever been. And so the question I want you to consider, and you may need to wrap your head around this a little bit if you haven't already, is this: is there a single major battlefield, like the ones I just mentioned, where the controllers are not at least starting to lose? You look at the vaccine passports, you look at the lockdowns, you look at the CBDCs, and you look at the indoctrination in education, and you see the alternatives coming in, and you see people standing up against them. So is there a single major battlefield where the controllers are not starting to lose? So that's the question that I want you to keep in mind and to go into the breakout groups. And we'll do the same thing. We'll do up to 4 people so you'll have about 3 minutes each, a 12-minute breakout group.
Okay, and so the breakout rooms are ready. Have fun.
Let's see who we got. Raymond, how are you, buddy? Yondala, and it looks like you're not there. And
I've unmuted.
Hi, Robert. Long time no talk.
Yolanda has not.
Yeah, we all need to.
Michael
unmute.
has not. Unmute Michael. Yolanda.
Hi, Robert. How are you, buddy? It's good to see you. You know what my answer is going to be, so I won't even provide it. First off, is it Pernilla? How do you pronounce your name, young lady?
Pernilla, yeah.
It's nice to
Thank
meet
you.
you.
It's a Danish name.
Pleasure to meet you. Say it one more time. Pernilla?
Pernilla.
Pernilla. It's nice.
Pernilla.
Pernilla. It's nice to meet you.
Pernilla.
Pernilla.
P-E-R-N like name.
Pernilla. Got it. Pernilla. Thank you
Got it.
for the
Yeah.
clarity there.
Yeah, it's
And
a common Danish name.
and the other gal, do you want to remove your mute there, or we can hear your voice? There you go. Pernilla, so are you in Denmark? Where are you?
I'm from no, California. I'm in Santa Cruz. Where Foster and Kimberly live. I'm a local gal here.
Awesome.
I've been here for many years.
Where, say it again. Where are you based? Where?
Santa Cruz.
Santa Cruz.
Cali-
Nice.
Santa Cruz in California.
Santa Cruz. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yolanda, do you want to tell us hi and boo?
That's
and
where
where you're from?
I'm sorry. I had to take care of some family business and I stepped out for the last probably 30 minutes. So
That's okay. We'll bring you up to speed. It's all good.
Okay,
We're
right.
just
So I'm not sure what this breakout group is, what the topic is, but I'm from Stockbridge, Georgia, and I'm visiting my mother in Akron, Ohio right now. So
That's awesome. Well, it's nice to make your acquaintance. So we've got Robert on and myself, and the question is there a single major battlefield where the controls are not starting to lose? So is there a single major battlefield where the controls are not starting to be loose? So what he's talking about, the secret combinations have basically taken over finance and health, and they've taken over banking, and they've taken over pharmaceuticals, and they've taken over even farming with some of the monocropping and things that they've done in farming. And then they take over governments, and then they make all the money. And then it's like, how do you compete with all that? And so he's asking a really good question around where are they not winning? So everyone gets to answer that, and then we'll go ahead and provide the direction once we go back in. So Raymond, do you want to start and provide your feedback?
I will defer to you. The
Yeah.
question is not where are they not winning, but where are they actually starting to lose? You, I think, have a far better perspective on that than I.
I
I'm still careful.
You
So
know,
you go ahead.
You know, I've lived a life on this one. So, but I really think it's important for us to understand others. So Yolanda or Cornelia, do you want to give us your perspective on that answer to that question? And I can read it one more time since Yolanda, you were just coming into it. Is there a single major battlefield where the controllers are not starting to lose?
There you go.
I think they are
no, I
losing on every battlefield because I think that people are waking up. People are understanding that our freedoms, our human rights are being attacked, and they are attempting to take everything from us. So I think that I think that they're actually losing. I think that all of the things that they're involved in is starting to crumble because people are seeing what's really happening. And, you know, whether it's in pharmaceuticals with all, you know, with the COVID scenario, I mean, even in with what's going on in Ukraine and Israel, with the alternative media, I think that people are seeing the truth. Truth is coming out, so people are seeing that what's really happening, you know, around the world. So I think all of the chaos and the things that we're seeing is the fact it's evident that they are losing control because they're trying to control everything, and as a result, I believe everything is falling apart.
Amen. Amen. I don't think that's just spot on. You know what? And that's probably my biggest concern when I started this journey and we start rolling things out and see people that just don't see it. It's like, how can they not see it? So for you to be able to say that and just say it's everything, they're losing everything. I think that's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Pernelia, do you want to give us your guidance and thoughts?
Sure, Pernilla.
Pernilla.
You know, to me, it looks like it is all crumbling. And only because I'm, you know, I listen to the people that I trust, and it's all coming out. I guess my concern is that there are still a lot of people that I know who have no freaking clue. And that's why sometimes I'm wondering, you know, is there some controlled opposition where I may be believing somebody and then they are not what I think they are. So I don't know. I have a feeling there might be some trolls here and there acting as big shots that might still be misleading us. But I don't know if that's true. It's just, you know, I don't really know what to believe in anymore.
You know
but
what?
Overall, it's amazing how things are crumbling. Or it's being exposed, I should say. Yeah.
How long have you been following Foster?
a long time. You know, he lives in my town. I know him and Kimberly, and I saw I've been following this forever, 20 years or more.
Yeah. Well, as somebody that has not followed him forever and doesn't know him personally like you do, I want to give you a witness that the things that he speaks are true and correct. That the spirit in which he's learned the knowledge that he has is true and correct. And as you go through life and you see other people that just don't get it, kind of like what Yolanda was like, no, I'm starting to see people that are getting it, so they're going to lose. It's just that simple, right? So if we just see it and then we choose not to be a part of it, they can't control us. And so they lose control of everything, everything. The banking and the finance and the health, all of it is something we choose to participate in. And if we just choose to not, we're not in it. They can't control us. The
But
taxation,
what is your specific answer to that specific question?
mine, you know me, is one word. They can't control decentralization if it's done right. They can't control it.
Well, I know that, but that's not an answer to his question.
Well,
And
no.
what are they not starting to lose?
Well, they never, they lost it. They never, the area around decentralization is what they'll do. So they've never won that war. They've always lost the decentralization war. And what they're trying to do is centralize decentralization. So that's really probably, you know, if I dug into it, I would say 5 countries have adopted Bitcoin. So there's one that have done Bitcoin and then one that have done the digital world, which is true decentralization. And Bitcoin, when it gets deployed, it takes about 10 minutes to do a transaction. So if someone wanted to sell a dozen eggs to somebody else, they'd have to wait 10 minutes for full settlement, or they'd have to have some trust in another network called the Lightning Network, where they put in their name and their address and their phone number, and then it basically links a public key to their name. So they're centralizing decentralization. So it's all a moot point. But I really think that technology, intelligently organized, can actually free humanity, and centralized systems cannot control it. Now, that's if humanity wakes up, kind of like what Yolanda was talking about. We got to wake up and actually do something different. And a lot of us look at things from a scarcity standpoint around, I don't have enough this, I don't have enough money, I don't have enough health, I don't have enough. And it's really just the opposite. We can create value and life based upon what we've been given. And if we just choose to use that value in a way that's different, people may feel like it's just as simple. We were all born when they used checkbooks, right? And then they went to credit cards, and then they went to debit cards. And now we've got FPOS cards, and now we got cards that just touch, and now they're all online, and people are jacking it. You can't even control it. Have you ever wondered why money just disappears out of your account and you can't even do anything about it? I mean, it's a very, all of those shifts in society is exactly what needs to happen. We just go through another shift of it. It's a scan with a QR code. Like, Robert, do you have a Clear Life system up right now? Like, do you have a phone with?
You mean me, I think.
Yeah,
Raymond,
do you have a phone with any kind of wallet on it that I can send you an asset to? Like, we could show these gals exactly what they can't control. Like, you and I are just connecting, and I can send you value just like that, real time. They can't control that. So that would be my answer to Forrest or Foster. I mean, literally, I would just talk all about how, for me, it all starts and ends with technology, but before technology, it's a spiritual thing. It's a spiritual understanding of good versus evil. And I believe that the reason that they can't win that decentralized battle, it's because decentralization is a true and correct principle that humanity is trying to attack. And here's how they're trying to attack it. I'll explain why I believe decentralization is a true and correct principle. One, in our bodies and in anything that grows, an apple, anything, at the cellular layer, knowledge and intelligence replicates and does what it's supposed to do. They can't control that. They're trying to within the mRNA garbage with the vaccines, but they can't. They're trying to attack this earth. And if you look at through a telescope up in the universe, you see how this world works. It's all decentralized. You look at what the government did when the power was given to the sheriffs through decentralization of authority, not with the president. So decentralization is a true and correct principle they can't take away.
Okay. We are back. So what areas are they not at least starting to lose in yet? Berta, how about you? What did you identify one? You need to unmute.
Okay. Well, first off, the three of us just agreed right away that a much juicier conversation would be, you know, that question of where they are losing. But for me, it came up that the most critical point is the individual responsibility for people to really investigate their conditioning, what they trust, what they believe in. And as much as people are waking up, I really feel like it's an individual thing that unless people really connect to the earth, connect to what's real about themselves, that's where they get people hypnotized and in the dark.
Yeah, really, really good point. It all comes back to that. And every area, I think, is just a subset of that exact one. In fact, we kind of, in our group, one person mentioned that chemtrails is one where we don't seem to be winning at all yet. And I think that that's accurate, that has not been sufficiently exposed. But the big one that we kind of came to at the end of the discussion was government itself. So many people still think that, okay, well, even if I believe in freedom and I want to, be an individual rather than collective and so forth, we still got to be ruled by someone. But I think that's in terms of the falling dominoes. I think that will be the last one to go. And when that one goes, I think that we like a snowball going down a hill. I think that one just kind of blows up, and then we will accelerate into a thriving world at a rate that none of us can even imagine right now. You're still muted. Berta, you're muted.
It's the universe.
Okay, what were you saying?
Thank you. That was a brilliant answer there. The government, the government one. That's a big stick in the.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for coming on, Berta. I really appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you.
James.
And James, if you could start video, I can spotlight you. Otherwise, just audio work. Oops.
I think I'm unmuted.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I really feel like one place that we haven't had any forward progress is with dependency in citizens who are dependent on the system. So, the larger problem is that, we've got about 50% of the boomers who have 401k, and that causes a financial dependency. And so that's what I really feel like the government is being smart about when they're creating dependency, and they're creating a system that is interdependent. My retirement is 401k, and it's enslaved to whatever index fund that I have it to. So my point is that the more we try to reform that, the more I lose my retirement. And everybody who has a logical self-interest financially into the stock market and with their Social Security inherently votes to keep things the same way, because they're smart enough to realize that at the beginning of the month, they need that check. And so you've got a bias here. And I think that that's a big problem. And then also with immigration, I think that they're all again trying to build dependency into the system. And we've had such a problem with immigration. I heard yesterday that the number of immigrants over the last term has been the equal amount to 35 of our states, population of our states. So we've had immigrants to 35 that are equal to 35 of our states. Now, again, they're building dependency with that. And the more a state is in emergency, the more it needs the federal government as well. So I really see that the big federal policies are trying to build dependency on a global level and in with the financial dependency and retirement and 401k, which is why we have so many retirees who vote to keep things and keep the exact same politicians in office all the time. So I think that is one place that we are losing ground there. We're not only not gaining, we're actually losing. So
I think it's a really good point, and you made it very clearly. These guys are shrewd. A lot of people say, "Oh, they're so stupid. Why would they ever do this?" No, they're psychopaths, but they're very smart, and they got trillions of dollars in think tanks put into how to dupe the rest of us into their control. And I think that the word dependency is a really good one to focus on. I remember Catherine Austin Fitts, when I interviewed her for Thrive One, she told what she calls the red button story. She was talking to an audience of about 100 people one time. And, Catherine Austin Fitz's audiences are very savvy. And she said, okay, now that we're on the same page about what's really going on in the world and so forth, let's pretend I have a big red button on the podium here. And all we have to do is press this button and government will disappear tomorrow. How many people would come up and press the button? And out of an audience of 100 savvy people, only one person said they would press the button. That's how shrewd this house of cards built on dependency is. And that's one reason I was curious to follow this kind of canary in the coal mine with Javier Milei in Argentina, because he just pretty much pulled the plug. It's kind of like what Elon Musk did at Twitter. He fired 70% of the employees, and the business is doing better than it ever has already. He never rehired. He replaced a lot of people, but 70% of the people, the number is gone. And it's the same with Milei. He got rid of, I think it's close to 70% already of the government budget, just wiped out the program. So there's a lot of people who were dependent who are struggling, and that's why they are having the big protests. And I think he would have done well to plan for the transition a little more carefully. We tried to lay out a 4-stage process in Thrive One. But in any case, the notion of how we actually wean off that dependency while becoming self-sufficient, I think that's one of the major questions for civilization right now. And it's certainly one of the major ones that I'm addressing in the book that I'm writing. Kind of the core of the book is, okay, has a stateless society ever worked? The second one is, okay, how could a stateless society actually work? And by the time you've seen those, the evidence is very clear that to whatever degree it's been tried, it has worked really well. And then when you go through how it actually could work, then the only question remaining is, okay, how do we get from here to there? And that's a really big question. And you can't impose it. You can't orchestrate the whole thing. It's going to be a natural, organic process. But the reason I'm writing the book is we need to have an operating manual. We need to know what the principles are. We need to have a beacon, a lighthouse to actually aim for, because without that, you just get the next revolution. And every single revolution has always just ended up kowtowing to the next authoritarian regime.
And
So
then where could you go with that, Foster? So that's we're on the same page here.
yeah.
How do we change our financial system and our retirement programs to benefit society instead of an elite ruling class? Should it be unionized labor with private pension funds, or can it be the investment 401k crap we got going on, which I don't think it can.
Well, to me, there's so many ramifications that it gets so confusing so fast. And that's just what they want. They want us to be completely overwhelmed by the confusion and then just turn to the experts.
It's actually,
but for me, the compass, which simplifies all of that, it always comes back to the non-aggression principle. So can there be unions? Of course. Workers can organize any way they want, but they can't use violence to get their way. And people can create any type of currency they want. They can't use violence to impose their currency. They can't insist on using a particular currency to pay taxes. In fact, you can't even insist on paying taxes. So it provides a really simple lens through which to design all of the independent systems. So the more challenging question to me is, okay, what do we do in transition? And what Kimberly and I were working out for years was kind of a voluntary business plan for the transition. And it was taking like 4 to 8 years. You know, both the Libertarian Party and the Green Party asked me if I would put my hat in the ring to run for president for Libertarians and vice president for the Green Party back in 2016. 2016. And, you know, given my beliefs about politics, the last thing in the world I would want is to be, even if I could get elected, was to be head of the biggest mafia in the world. But it was useful to imagine, okay, if I were president, what would I do? And I used to tell Kimberly,
Foster for president.
What's that?
I said Foster for president. We should do it.
Well, the only platform that I would run on is give me 8 years and I will peacefully dissolve government. I will create a peaceful transition so that, you know, you got 8 years to get your act together. And this is how it's going to work. We're going to be tapering that whole time. And after 8 years, you're going to be on your own. So you better, you know, this is ultimately a meritocracy. And I believe in all sorts of charitable stuff as long as it's voluntary. So those are the principles. It turns out the charities take much better care of people than government institutions, and voluntary associations and a voluntary market, you know, associations, clubs, organizations, businesses, but not corporations. A corporation is the adherence to the government's version of your doing business. So to me, it's the most interesting set of questions on the planet. And that's why I've been researching it for 15 years. And I'm in the process of trying to get it down into this book. So I see that, Michael, you've also got your hand up. I wanted to address one other question which was sent in. And I know we're a little bit over time. If you need to go, I totally understand. It's at this point that I get envious of Joe Rogan and his 3-hour format. But we do the best we can with 2 for now. Ilana sent in a question that said that I think brings up a really important thing that I've been in discussion with a lot of people about recently. Said, please give your opinion on Tucker Carlson. Is he controlled opposition? He wouldn't discuss the possibility that the Twin Towers was anything besides what the MSM said it was. He was vaxxed, etc. So I've been in a lot of discussions with people about the notion of controlled opposition, or CO as they call it. The other term for it is limited hangout, or LH. And after Thrive came out, for about a year, a lot of different trolls were accusing Kimberly and me of being controlled opposition. Oh, it's from Procter & Gamble. He must be a corporate shill. He's just pretending to be for all these good things, and he'll just kind of set us up and then lead us down the primrose path into tyranny. And so I'm very sensitive to what it's like to be accused of this type of thing. And there are a lot of controlled opposition out there. There are a lot of limited hangouts. I've confronted a number of them very directly, personally, and usually they're the ones I can actually identify. They're usually actually on the government payroll. They're actually being paid by the NSA or the CIA or the FBI or somebody to actually dispense information. I think that, you know, people like Benjamin Fulford and even David Wilcock, who I love and respect and learned a lot from him. But I think that, you know, he acknowledges that he's paid by the government to dispense certain information. So he gets access to a lot of great stuff. But at the same time, and I confronted him personally on this, I said, I can't trust you 100% because you're dispensing stuff for the government that you haven't vetted yourself. And he said, yeah, well, you're probably smart to do that. So anyway, I think the key thing is to use our critical thinking with each person as they go along. We need to be wary of limited hangouts, of controlled opposition. And at the same time, we're all going through our waking up process. You know, it was my son who woke me up to banking schemes after I had started the process of making Thrive. And that cascaded into, you know, so many things that the film was based around. So I was ignorant of that before my son sat me down and said, Dad, you gotta understand this stuff. If this film is going to be important, you got to understand this stuff. And so, you know, to this day, I'm continuing to get more educated, and I spend, you know, 6 to 8 hours a day on it still. So with somebody like a Tucker Carlson or a Russell Brand or a Matt Taibbi or a Dr. Phil or Dr. Drew, both of whom are really waking up now, I love when they're willing to not only wake up, but to wake up in a way that we're all watching. Joe Rogan had no clue about conspiracy just a few years ago, and now he's incredibly savvy. And the same thing with Tom Woods and with Russell Brand. And I could go on and on. Bobby Kennedy, you know, he was aware of a lot of traditional type of conspiracies because of the assassinations in his family, but there was a lot in terms of big pharma and so forth that he was unaware of, banking schemes and that type of thing. So I think it's critical that we allow people to be in their process wherever they are, and then look to their actions to see, are their actions, are they taking a risk with their actions? Are their actions consistent in terms of being true to whatever they believe to be true, and exhibiting the courage to actually speak up about that stuff? And the role that Joe Rogan and Tucker Carlson are playing right now. In fact, I was listening to a conversation between Joe Rogan and Dr. Phil. And Dr. Phil is very savvy now, up to a certain level. He knows about the corruption. He just doesn't understand the structure and the motivation behind it. But he's so pissed off about it that he is, as of April 1st, a little over a month, he's launching his own mainstream television network devoted to the truth. And he's going to welcome people on from whatever perspective it is, as long as they're coming with the facts and evidence and willing to debate about it. So my point here is that we need to be sensitive to deception, but at the same time, not get caught battling with each other over, well, you don't know this thing that I know, so therefore you're not completely committed, and therefore I don't trust you at all. That's very dangerous. And the agencies are using that to divide and conquer us. And unfortunately, it's still very effective amongst a lot of people. Okay, so I wanted to address that before we go. Michael, I see you got your hand up. Let's do you, and then we're going to need to wrap up.
So just focused on the question, which I think is a really good question. Is there a single major battlefield where the controllers are not starting to lose? And I would always go back to decentralization as a true and correct principle, that they will never lose and they'll never win unless we choose to centralize decentralization. And you know, when you talk about a battle, what is the battle? And I really believe the war is at 3 levels. It's at the individual level, it's at the family level, and it's at the earth or the world. They're talking about this global warming initiative. I've personally been to the World Economic Forum in Davos, and I personally looked John Kerry in the eyes and I said, it's not real. We have unlimited power all around us that actually can be given at room temperature. It's not real. This is not fake. So literally, I went to John Kerry at the World Economic Forum before COVID and says it's not real. And you know, this country that's actually Tuvalu.
Well, wait a minute. Before you leave that one, you got to tell us, what did his face look like after that? Did he respond at all?
Yeah, actually search Michael Proper and John Kerry, and you'll come up with a post that it's him and me, a photo of him and me saying this exact same thing at Davos, at the World Economic Forum. So the world really is a beautiful, natural, God-given sphere that we all get to live on, that humanity thinks they can control, and they'll never win that battle. Okay. Primarily because decentralization is something that happens naturally in nature. It happens, if you look at a microscope into our being, into our cellular layer, everything is replicating and duplicating just as it should naturally. If you take a telescope and look way up into the stars, it naturally duplicates because of decentralized intelligence. And it's something that we may struggle as humans to understand, but it's a natural law. And so the family, we all know how that's happening. You just look at reproduction, you just look at, you know, the welfare systems, the gay right, all the other LGBTQ, A by C, whatever you want to call it. It's an attack on the family and then the individual. And by giving the individual their own identity through decentralized premise, so their identity first. So that Hawaiian Life is a great example of it. It gives you your identity in a very simple way. 2-3 clicks, you have your own identity. 2-3 clicks, you actually can transact. And here's the key. You talked about all these different parties, the Green Party, the Republican Party, the Democratic Party. I'm actually sitting in a state where a new party was actually brought in twice before called the Shopping Party. And it really is all about individuals self-selecting to shop. If we choose to shop local and to shop with a currency that is not in controlled systems, we will be free. Taxation will go away. The ability for them to control. You talked about businesses. What if you can create a business that you actually control and it's got a reputation that the world can see transparently and they can't shut it down? What if think about a family that has a trust and someone works really hard. Like I look at you, Foster, you have worked a lifetime to create wealth, not monetarily, but in the fabric of who you are, in your posterity, in your family, in your relationships, in your spirit, in your knowledge. How does that get passed down to the next generation? States and governments is just a form of slavery. If you look at the word government, it's full-on slavery. So the key is, how can we actually govern ourselves based upon decentralized principles that we can actually have responsibility, and then ends up with the ability to be liberated and to have vitality. And, you know, we talk about the Statue of Liberty. You can't have liberty without responsibility and accountability. So decentralization is where they will not win if we so choose. Now, we can choose to be centralized. So what I mean by that is there's 4 countries that have actually gone through using Bitcoin, and they then use a technology called the Lightning Network, which then centralizes the decentralized element of Bitcoin. So in effect, because Bitcoin transacts in 10 minutes, they can't wait around to buy a dozen eggs. So they literally say, hey, I'll put my name in and I'll put my date of birth in and maybe a phone number, and then I'll give you my private key and then I'll transact. Well, do you know who owns the Lightning Network? It's Visa. Do you know who owns Visa? When you roll all this back, you end up with Blackwater, you end up with Vanguard, and you end up with Bank of America, and you end up with these secret combinations that are all working in different industries, health, finance, media, etc. And ultimately, they cannot organize in such a way, even though they've taken over governments and monetary systems, they can't organize in such a way where they can control everyone in how they choose to grow food, sell food. And just by growing food and selling food, all of this can change. And it's not just food, it's any of the things that we want. So we don't have to adopt the monocropping and the supply chain that the centralized systems think we need. The next thing you're going to see is you can't travel. You don't have, come May of 2025, if you don't have this real ID, you can't get on a plane. Well, if we all choose not to buy plane tickets, they're going to think twice. And don't get me wrong, the governments will keep funding the airlines like they have, but we can choose where we go, what we do, what we buy. So with that, Foster, thank you for being you and for all that you've done for humanity. Much love.
You're welcome. Thanks for keep coming back to making it simple. To as simple as what we buy and what we buy it with. Brilliant. All right, let me show you just a flyer that if you want to screen grab it or write down on your calendar when our next gathering will be. Saturday, March 23rd at the usual time with the usual suspects. Okay, thank you all. You continue